On today's agenda, Dome is going to do a quick demo of some improvements that he's been working on coming to the OUSD DApp. We will take a quick look at this morning's analytics report. He's got those coming out once a week. Give us a reminder of what numbers we should be focusing on. We'll get an update from Josh on how the liquidity mining campaign is going. And then, talk about marketing strategy for USD. That's something we haven't done a lot of in this meeting, but something that I think Daniel was excited about doing today, because we want to capitalize on the momentum that we have with the liquidity mining campaign. I didn't see any announcements or flags to raise in the agenda. Stop me if anything comes to mind. But otherwise, let's start by checking in on our engineering sprint priorities. Those are linked in the meeting notes that I posted in Discord. And of course, we started a new sprint last Thursday. It runs for 2 weeks. Most of the projects that we had slated are front end and DApp analytics related for Domain. But then we also have the convex strategy that we want to roll out. I think Daniel was working on. And then we had also talked recently about setting up some monitoring for the channel keeper. Let me see who all is here. I don't see Daniel or Domain yet, so we might have to come back and check in on those. I know that Domain's been making a lot of progress with the transaction history view in the DApp. That's what he's going to show us today. We might bump that down the agenda a little bit until he's here. And then I'll check in with Daniel on the other projects when he's able to join us. So why don't we, if you don't mind, why don't we start with general liquidity mining update. Josh, if you want to give one.
Yeah, sure thing. So it's been going very well. We're quite happy with the results so far. So we can talk about high-level metrics. We can talk about specifics on the bribe campaign, and then metrics on the actual liquidity provision. So let's run through each of those. I'll actually go ahead and share my screen here, and we can just walk through some of these numbers together. So first thing here, can everyone see my screen at this point?
Yeah, we need to click watch stream, anyone who wants to see it. But otherwise, we see what you see.
Great. So we're up to almost $70 million of circulating supply for OUSD. And so this is very exciting. We're very, very happy with that growth. We're seeing a lot of people coming in and a lot of new users participating in this campaign. If we actually look at the numbers here, I don't know exactly what our circulating supply was, but somewhere around $27 million before we started the campaign. And now we're up to 60.9, like I said, means we've added $33.9 million. And so if you look at how much we spent, we're only 5/7 of the way through the campaign. So of the $750,000 that we set aside, we've only spent $535,000 of that. Using OGN value price 1.11, and we can see kind of how much money we've spent in dollar terms. That lets us see what our ROI is. So for every dollar of rewards that we've spent so far, we've gotten $57 of circulating supply, which is a great result. We'll be tracking these numbers over time. Obviously, we expect these to go down over time, right? You get the highest bang for your buck in the beginning, where the APYs are the highest. But nonetheless, we're still quite happy with these results so far, and we'll be tracking them closely over time. One of the cool things to see is how well our bribe campaign is working. So if you go to Curve's website and you go to the Gauge Weight Vote page here, you can actually see how people are voting for our pool. So here are all the wallets that have voted for OUSD to get, in most cases, 100%. There's a couple exceptions here, people saying 1% and 99.9%, but almost everyone's voted for us to get 100% of the votes for this. And if we look at this a little bit closer, we'll actually see, and we actually put this in a spreadsheet here, we actually do some analysis on this. So we've gotten 3.4 million votes of the ECRV. If we go back here, we see actually how many people have actually voted this week. And only 2.21% of locked CRV holders have actually participated in voting. And so this is an important thing to understand, is that most people abstain from voting each week. But the way Curve works is that once you get that vote, it stays, your vote carries over to the next week if you don't change it. So basically, we're paying people to change their votes, and then after that, most people just leave them the way they are. And so I think that's an important thing for us to understand. This is one of those cases where participation in decentralized governance is very, very low. But it's also an opportunity for us, because once we get those votes, people are very unlikely to change them, or at least that's our thinking so far. So if we go back here, I actually see 47% of the people who voted have actually voted for our pool over something else. And so assuming we can continue to get new people to vote for us every week, this will, our yields on the CRV aspect will go up. Doing a little bit of math on what the APR looks like for the people who are participating in the bribe campaign. There's $13.8 million worth of CRV that's voted for us. Using $250,000 as a prize pool, it means 1.8% APR for them on just this one vote. You annualize that 52 weeks, assuming they vote every single week. That's a 93% APR. Now that's assuming that there's someone offering a $250,000 bribe pool every single week. But given the last 5 or 6 weeks when we've been paying attention to this, that seems pretty safe to say. So people who are participating in bribe pool are doing quite well, and it's certainly going to be benefiting us as well. We can actually see what that's going to look like. So if we go here, we can look at the OUSD pool, and it will show us what the future rate is going to be. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. So right now it's almost nothing, and that's because we were the only person voting for the OUSD pool before this campaign started, and now it's more than that. And so the CRV rewards next week are going to jump up to 14.74% to 36.85%. And again, we're only 5/7 of the way through this week's, and so these numbers could improve. Certainly, they're trending in a positive direction. We were, last time I looked, 15% of voters were voting for our pool. Now we're up to 47%. So participation is increasing, and more people are choosing our pool instead of competing pools. So that's all great. One point of clarification, so the $250,000 we had set aside for bribes, we're actually the only person who that's allowed to claim that, because these are retroactive, or these are rewards for people who already voted. So we put up the $250,000 so everyone can see it, but we're actually the only person who can claim it. We put up another $250,000 next week, and then all the people who voted in this campaign will actually get paid. So as a result, that's why our campaign this week is actually only $750,000 instead of a full $1 million that we were anticipating spending. But that's just because it's sitting there to draw attention to what we're doing, and that we're going to be offering bribes. Next thing we can look at is liquidity. So one of the exciting things was getting added to Convex. And so people can go through Convex and then Convex has locked up a bunch of CRV, and so people can get a 2.5x boost on their CRV rewards by participating in Convex. This is something our advisor Andrew Kang had asked for, and so we were thrilled to be able to get them to integrate this very, very quickly. We've seen $9.1 million come in through Convex so far, and we expect that to increase. The UI is messed up here. I don't know why it's showing this such a low percentage rate. It may just be a time lag thing, but this was yesterday. We were second highest pool on Convex, but we've dropped down to being way down here in the list. If anyone has any reason why that or understanding why that's happening, let me know. Or if it's anything
Can someone confirm that the rewards are actually coming through at the higher level, not what's shown?
They should be. I don't know why they wouldn't be.
Thanks.
But this is something I plan to investigate more. I just haven't had time yet this morning to dig into it. But yes, we have OUSD pool here for people who want to stake. And we also have people who have locked their CVX. And so people who have actually locked their CVX can actually participate, similar to people who have locked their CRV, get to participate. And this allows you to vote for the weightings that Convex will then pass on to Curve. And so if we go to our pool info here, you can see the people who are actually voting with their locked CVX to issue us a higher percentage of votes. Again, because of the way decentralized governance works and most people don't participate, you can actually get higher leverage on your voting power by voting through Convex than you can going directly on Curve. Not to mention the added rewards, because you get not only CRV, OGN trading fees, but you get the CVX on top of that. So very, very compelling offer for people who do want to participate in that. Finally, we can look at our pool on Curve and what that looks like. So we can go here, we can search for OUSD. Here we are. And then we can look here at how much capital we have here. So $67 million here. Of course, 52% of that is free CRV and 47% of that is OUSD. So we're continuing to see high demand for OUSD. The pool's being a little bit unbalanced, but the campaign is clearly working. It's doing a great job of pulling in capital. Any questions on all those numbers? I know I ran through a lot of stuff really quickly.
There's no pool 2 here, so there's no natural buyer of OGN right now. It just seems like a lot of people will be dumping it, at least in the near term. Any thoughts on how to fix that?
So the main thing to keep in mind is just what a tiny percentage our OGN rewards are of our daily trading volume. So we're intentionally way below 1% of our daily trading volume, which any trading desk will tell you if you're below 1%, you're not going to move the market or have a perceivable impact on the market. Even if 100% of the people who are earning these rewards turn around and dump them on the market. So we don't anticipate there being any negative impact here. And in fact, we actually saw the opposite, which is our price pumped 30% when we announced this liquidity mining campaign. The response has been very positive from the market for what we're doing here. So we expect it to be nothing but positive for Origin and OGN holders. One thing to keep in mind is that 10% of the yield that's generated by OUSD is used for a buyback. And so this happens at least once a week when we do our weekly harvest, but often happens more frequently as whales are minting OUSD. And then that does a buyback. And if you look in our OUSD bot channel on Discord, you can see multiple events where that buyback is happening. So the higher the circulating supply of OUSD, the higher the buy pressure is exerted on OGN.
Awesome, thanks.
Any other questions?
Just wanted to say that it's exciting to see the TVL double in like under a week. So it's pretty cool to see. I'm sure after the campaign, the numbers are going to decrease somewhat, but still very exciting times.
Thanks, Josh, for running through all of that. Thing that I wanted to point out in the agenda is we have a link to the weekly analytics report that Dome has automated. And so if you look at that link, you can basically see the report from this morning. It lags what has happened since then. So total supply is actually up a bit since then. But the other thing that you see there is that there are some users coming to OUSD who are not participating in the liquidity mining campaign, and that will only naturally be more so the case as the APY continues to climb. I think that's something that we probably want to get a better handle on and be able to see throughout the week, at any time, rather than waiting for the report. It also ties into marketing discussion that I think we'll have a little bit later.
So just answering back on that, if you look at the analytics page, the very top row if you click on APY and you look at the 30-day report, the very top row is live as of the minute and lets you see the breakdown between rebasing and non-rebasing OUSD. So you can get a live 1 minute old view of it anytime during the day of where it's currently at.
Yeah, the word supply in total supply it is linked, and that's where you can see what is where. But we'll expand that this week so that it makes more sense and more intuitive.
One other thing I'll just add, we've heard from multiple funds, some people who are running stablecoin funds, yield farming funds with very large amounts of capital. And they've been reaching out and doing calls with us. And so that's really exciting as well, seeing the interest from much larger players, people who want to have some conversations and take their time and do due diligence before just aping in. But we've been pleasantly surprised by the amount of interest we've seen on the institutional side as well.
Sorry, I missed on the analytics page. Is there a way to see what the what the rebase APY is if you're just holding in your wallet?
Yeah, if you look at that is the APY that's displayed there. Is
15.83
just in your wallet. But if you want to view historical by the day instead of a 30-day average, if you click on APY up on the homepage, up right above the APY display, then you'll see a historical view of it.
Understood. Thank you. Great.
Cool. Right. Let's come back to the sprint priorities that we were talking about a minute ago. Now that Daniel and Domin are here, Daniel, we had the convex strategy and keeper monitoring on the list for you. Have you made any progress on either of those, or are you planning to do those this week or next?
Yes. Well, everything on my side on the convex strategy is ready to go. We're waiting code reviews on that, and then it's ready to deploy. Keeper monitoring, since we're so in the middle of other things, and it looked like there was 7 weeks worth of it, we're going to put off for another week or two. But I look to see that it runs at night. And it's less important now with multiple whales minting every day.
Yeah, it's been cool to see those harvests happening in addition to the rebase that we normally get with the keeper.
Yep.
Cool. I do think it'd be nice. It might be nice to have the rebase only happen once a day. Certainly, after playing with Domin's UI, the account view, it's sort of hard to see what your yield is when it's your daily yield is broken up, into multiple line items, and maybe there's a swap in the middle of it or something like that. So I do think it would be easier for people to tell, exactly how much money they're making, and it'd be a little bit more predictable if we limited it to that once a day rebase instead of multiple times a day.
That's a fairly easy change to make. It's basically just pulling out all the automatic rebases and then limiting the manual rebases to the keeper.
As a short-term fix to that, would it make sense to just collapse those rebases in the UI as opposed to changing how frequently they happen, or not? Not yet.
We could. One of the challenges is there can be other events that happen in between the yields. So, example I just gave of like you earn 2 yields, and then there's a swap transaction, and then there's 5 more rebases after that. So you'd have to figure out how to aggregate in that way.
Yeah.
Solvable, but it's like a minor.
Sure. I just like the, where we started on OUSD, having rebates theoretically happen consistently. I mean, like constantly at any time.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely nice for it to be predictable, have a minimum frequency. Like, I know it's going to happen once a day. But if it only happens once a day, then people can game when they come in and out of the thing and not miss out on any yield. So it's something to at least think about before doing it. Okay.
Sure.
We had some other sprint priorities that were on Doman's plate. Do you want to start by just showing us what's going on with the transaction history view?
Sure. Let me share my screen first.
Mm-hmm.
Go live.
And we will.
So I think you just have to click the.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Watch stream. Yep. All right. I'll be quiet.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. So this is something I've been developing. It's available in production. So if you go ousd.com/history, you're going to see the account history. It's not yet completely done. So what you see before you, for example, is all of the events that are kind of related to my account. So that basically consists of yields when I received sent OUSD or swapped stablecoin for OUSD. And if you want, you can only filter and see only those transactions, and also check them on Etherscan if you'd like. And okay, here I can see like when OUSD has been sent, when OUSD has been received. So it should give you like a good oversight of what's happening with your account and how much you're earning daily. For example, what's today? Today's been like 5 rebases, 6 rebases, 5 rebases, obviously. And if I would, this is the thing we were just talking about. If you were to group all these amounts, that would be like today's earnings, my today's earnings. But because I have like a fairly slow balance in this account, like 36 OUSD, those earnings are obviously very minor. But account having like a couple of more thousand or even more would have this amount value a lot more exciting, obviously. Yeah, and that's basically it. Here's the pagination, works as you would expect it. Maybe one thing I was thinking about, because it's all done client side, maybe there should be some indicator that something has happened, because if like a page is full of yields, for example, these 2 pages, right, which are only consist of yields, you might be confused as if you don't get maybe enough feedback that page has changed, but that's like a minor thing. Yeah, and this is it. It's more or less done, but I still have there's some transactions that are not recognized correctly, so I still have some couple of hours of work, but then I think I will be pretty close. Any questions?
It looks great. I'm really happy with this feature. We're still planning to add the export to CSV button up there as well, right?
Good point. Yeah, that's also one thing missing.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think that makes it, particularly if you're able to filter it and then export that to CSV, it helps with your own accounting or taxes or whatever. it'll be nice to have.
Is it possible to?
Other point is, yeah, go ahead.
Is it possible to add like a chart at the top where you could see like the number increase over time, or no? Or would that be too much for client side?
Now, of course, that's possible. I think that's something we're planning to add, later down the line. But it's not really a performance thing that it would be too much for a client. Just the engineering work that needs to be done for it to be useful, and that you can like read the info you want of the chart.
It's a lot easier now that you've done this all the work to get to here. So now that we have this
definitely.
data, going from this to a chart should be relatively easy. I know it was, but the hard work was getting to this point.
And let's get some charts on analytics first, and then we can use whatever library we use to put something here. Dillman, Josh, any recent thoughts on how the user will navigate to this page? Right now we've got it hidden. You got to type in the path up there in the address bar. I know we had debated that a little bit. Any new thoughts since we've been able to play with it?
To me personally, sorry to interrupt you, Josh. Maybe here somewhere on the top navigation, or if somebody's got maybe some better ideas.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think it's if I'm already holding OUSD, this would be the page I'd want to look at to see kind of how well it's doing. Is sort of the most interesting thing for me to look at as an existing OUSD holder. If I'm a new OUSD holder, then going to the swap page first makes the most sense. So I might be not that we necessarily want to route people to different places based on whether we're holding OUSD or not, but I've always thought that page makes a lot of sense for existing OUSD holders to land, and then for new holders to land on the swap OUSD page instead. It probably is worth noting that that history page is not going to do anything if you don't hold OUSD. I don't know if we have some sort of call to action on that for the empty state, but we probably want to have a big button that's like, go buy some.
Yeah,
that's a good point. It would probably just show. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you first.
Sorry. I think that's a good point. Currently, it would be just like an empty list, and that's probably mega confusing. If you open just that and see nothing. So yeah, I'll ping Ori about the empty state.
The other thing I was going to say, Ari and I have talked about that view that you're showing us right now. That stuff on the right side, where it's like the feed of the transactions that you've done, that's becoming like pretty redundant with not only the transaction history that we were just looking at, but also the different states that the swap form gets into. We've run into that a few times, so at some point we'll want to revisit all of this and come at it with a fresh approach. Thinking, as you've said, Josh, more like a bank account screen. So anyway, for now, we probably just throw a nav item up at the top for the history.
How do people feel about having the nav item there and then just hiding it completely for first-time buyers who don't have any OUSD in their wallet? Is that
I agree. Yeah.
You're saying don't let them
about
access the history at all in its zero state?
I mean, that would be one option, is like, instead of showing them a blank page that doesn't do anything, just send them to, directly to the swap page. And then if you do have OUSD, there's a new nav item that shows up that has all your history there.
I'm waiting for Ari to unmute and say that we should
I know he hates
additional nav items. Oh, he spoke with his feet. He's just completely gone. He didn't want to talk about it.
Sorry,
I hit the wrong button.
just left.
I hit the wrong button, guys. So, I like what you're saying, Mike, about maybe like taking a step back and doing a new approach. The bank account approach does appeal to me. I think that means UI that we don't have currently. I think having a history but not being able to show anything in it sort of doesn't make sense. I also question items that kind of pop in and out of the nav, depending on where you are in the user journey. So maybe the page just looks a little bit different when you don't have a history. It's just an empty state, and it says, go buy some OUSD today to start your journey or something like that. So those are my thoughts.
Cool. Well, thanks, Doman, for all the progress. And we can start with the nav item, show it to everybody, come back later when we've got more time. Improve it.
What did we decide on a name there? Was it just account? Is that what we decided for that tab?
Account, I think, would be confusing. Maybe balances or something, or transactions, but I think account people would just think that's details about their profile or something.
I think the most literal, direct word is history.
I think history is fine, and we can rename it to dashboard when it becomes powerful enough or something, or has like enough other features maybe.
Yeah, or transactions maybe.
Sure.
Transaction history is a little long.
Yeah, it's just that, again, we have that thing on the right where it's like blockchain transactions that may or may not have gone through, that may or may not contribute to your balance. It's sort of a different animal.
I like history.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next topic, if you don't mind.
Sorry, can I just jump in quick? Previously, the export functionality has been mentioned. So, would you want would you expect export to behave that it would export current filters, or that it would export everything?
I would expect it to export current filters, but ignoring pagination. So I would want it to give me all of the data for the filters that I've selected.
Should we add a modal informing you of that, or is that something everybody expects?
No.
Export to do.
I think we just do it, and if people don't like the CSV it gives them, they can play around with it and do something else.
Okay, good point.
Yep. And I would say let's go ahead and add this to the top nav, right? Obviously, we're going to continue to improve on it, but let's get it out there. I think it's already super interesting and valuable for people. So let's go ahead and push it up and then continue to iterate from there.
Agreed.
Okay.
There were a couple
Thanks
of
for working on that, Doman.
Yep. Thanks, Doman. There were a couple of other things that popped up that were not originally planned as sprint priorities. One of them was Doman did some cleanup on the earn page after we introduced liquidity mining concept to that page. So thanks for that. The other one was that there's currently a miscalculation on the lifetime earnings. We had talked about this a little bit a few days ago. Thought initially that it was related to curve swaps, but Doman, I think you were saying that it was something else. So I just wanted to make sure we didn't forget about that, because every time I go into my account, I think that I've made a lot more than I did, and I'm sad.
Yeah. If I'm guessing, it's probably precision update related, but I'll look into it. Rebase logs need to be divided by 1 billion now, and it's probably not doing that. I imagine. I'll look into it after transaction history.
Cool. Thanks for that. Let me know if I can give you any more information on what I'm seeing there to help debug it. So, looking back at the agenda, I think the main thing remaining is discussing OUSD marketing strategy. And then if we have enough time, we might get an update from Matt on the NFT platform. Also, I wanted to say it looked like there were a few people joining us for the first time today or who haven't introduced themselves before. So if you'd like to do that near the end of the meeting, maybe in 20 minutes or so or less, then we'd love to hear how you ended up here and what you're working on that you're excited about. So let me hand it off to maybe Daniel or Max. I'm not sure who has any thoughts to kick off the marketing discussion, but I'll say before we jump into it that I feel like the objective for our marketing strategy right now is to grow OUSD usage amongst people that are not participating in the liquidity mining campaign. Josh is doing, all this great work with Convex and with the bribe campaign to encourage people to provide OUSD to the curve pool. That's working. What we want to see, big picture, is we want that to translate into more people holding OUSD naturally. Back to the question from a few minutes ago, what's the APY if I'm holding it in a normal wallet? That should be a really compelling proposition right now. So we want to be driving more people to the core product at the same time that we're driving people to the liquidity mining campaign. It's sort of two different users. But anyway, I will step back for a minute if you guys want to talk about user segments and how to reach them. Anyone?
Yeah, Max, if you wanted to go for it. I just put down some.
I was actually going to say if you wanted to go for it because you mentioned the segmentation in the internal channel, but yeah, I mean.
Well, let me actually start and set the stage here. So, so I think a lot of us agree that OUSD today is already an awesome product, and it's only going to get better, right? Once we turn on Convex strategy, our APYs are going to go up considerably, and certainly the yields are going to go up higher for the curve participants because of the success of our bribe campaign. And so the future for OUSD is looking really bright. And the biggest challenge for us is just how do we get the word out so that more people know about it. Yes, we want to continue to get the word out to people who are degens who are participating on Curve. I wouldn't completely eliminate them as people we need to reach. Like obviously it's still worth it to us to get those whales on our side, and we can reach our goals of increasing our circulating supply a lot faster if we're doing it in $2 million, $5 million chunks than if we're doing it, $1,000 at a time. We also have to be realistic about gas costs on Ethereum, and so a lot of people are priced out from being able to buy $100 worth of OUSD because we're not on enough centralized exchanges yet. And so we are going to continue targeting the whales, the big players, but I'd say we want to also be attractive to people who are maybe not the $100 range, but certainly in the $25,000 range or $10,000 range. OUSD should be a compelling proposition for them. And the challenge for us today is just how do we get the word out to more people? And so there's different ways we can do this, some with traditional marketing techniques and some that are more unique to crypto. So in traditional techniques is using social media, content marketing, doing paid ads. Those are all things that we're open to doing and want to do more of. And then on the crypto side, it's much more around how do we do more grassroots community building? How do we actually activate the large community of OGN holders that we have? How do we actually get people to go out and spread the word to their friends? And are there any incentives that we want to set up around that? Whether that's experimenting with new referral programs or things like that to drive adoption. So that's a sort of high level how we're thinking about it. We want to do both traditional marketing as well as some of these things that are more specific to crypto and actually activating our community. Does someone want to run through these different segments? I think Micah, you were one who put this down.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know that there's any real original thinking here, but I just wanted to clarify because we've talked at times about, reaching a mainstream audience, reaching degens, and from my perspective, OUSD is most appealing today to people somewhere in the middle. We'd like to target what we've called the crypto mainstream, but what I mean by that is they probably own some Bitcoin. They have a Coinbase account. They have a Binance account, maybe, but they generally they haven't onboarded to Ethereum. They don't have a Web3 wallet. They don't have experience using Uniswap. Those are the people that we would love to target, but we need to solve the on-ramp piece first that we've talked about many times here. And so who I think we're targeting before then are people who have onboarded to Ethereum, who are experienced swapping on Uniswap or other dexes, and they're on a wide spectrum of from being conservative to being degen. I think there's a case to be made that degens, while they're chasing much higher yields, doing things that are much more speculative, they do hold stablecoins for periods of time. They do move in and out of Tether, and there's no reason why they can't be moving in and out of OUSD from time to time. And then at the other end of the spectrum, there are people like me who, yeah, I might speculate on some coin from one day to the next, but I also hold quite a bit of OUSD because I want a relatively safe, relatively consistent yield. And so I think we need to be targeting all of those people, but none of them are, and it's not just individuals. I mean, as we've talked about, it's also funds, it's also more institutional type, family offices, high net worth individuals, that sort of thing. But none of this is the actual mainstream. None of this is just your mom or dad who would like to get a higher yield on their savings. That comes much, much later. And so I don't know what are all the proper channels and the proper strategies, but I think our ideal user today is Web3 enabled, and they have maybe not a lower level of DeFi sophistication, but they either are less sophisticated with DeFi or they have a reason to avoid all the complexities of DeFi. Because that's the beauty of OUSD, is it saves you from all of the hassle, whether you understand it or not.
Yep, I think that's well said. Our long-term goal is to be able to serve mainstream, but we're not there yet, right? We've got a long way to go. Again, we've gone over our growth strategy multiple times here, but step one is increase our circulating supply. Step two is use that to get listed on more centralized exchanges. That further increases our ability to capture more capital, making it easier and easier for mainstream users to come on board, and then eventually we can actually start bridging to traditional finance and having you deposit your paycheck into an OUSD denoted bank account and debit card to pay all your expenses from that. But right now we need to focus exclusively on Web3 enabled wallets and focus our effort on getting up our circulating supply. Max, Daniel, do you want to weigh in on some of the actual tactics we want to take here on how we actually do this?
Yeah, so I think touching on what you said, Aaron and I had a call this morning about some of the options available, and I think especially with OUSD, we're a lot more open to some of the traditional marketing, like maybe running at least some Twitter ads, for example, and targeting people who may be interested in DeFi, for instance, or stablecoins. And just kind of, getting OUSD out there. We haven't done any campaigns like that before, so I think especially while we have the yield farming going on with Curve, it's a good opportunity to try to test the waters and see how we convert from that kind of thing. Outside of that, I think, again, because of the yield farming, OUSD is a little bit more attractive to people than it was previously. So I think there is some opportunity for us to go into some of these DeFi communities as well, whether it's like AMAs or other kinds of community building, and just, again, put OUSD out there. And I think even if it's not 100%, there'll be some portion who will be interested in trying it to get the added yield with OGN. But you would expect, kind of as is the intent of the campaign, that some of them might stick around or learn about OUSD and see how easy it is to move in and out of. So yeah, we're looking at that and even possibly running like ads and things like this on some of the more popular DeFi sites, like for instance, DeFi Pulse maybe, and just see if it works for us to put an ad up there, for instance. I guess that's like, yeah, some examples of what we're discussing.
Yeah. Do we have, I mean, I'm down, like, let's, DeFi Pulse totally makes sense. Let's just pull the trigger on it. One thing we want to make sure we have is a way of tracking attribution and making sure we're measuring the success on that. Do we have that tracking in place on the engineering side where we could pass a referral code and track how much capital is coming in?
Yeah, I wanted to raise that up previously. We have that capability, but only through the dApp. So the first time the user loads dApp, there's a UTM source parameter that can be added to the link of whatever promotional campaign, and it's gonna set a property to that user that he belongs to, whatever that campaign was, and then all the Google Analytics data we query, we can segment by that campaign value. So that's not going to be on-chain data, obviously. Not all. If you go through MetaMask or whatever, but all through that goes through the dApp, we're going to capture.
Great. And so that's just all we need to do on the marketing side is pass a UTM source attribute. Is that correct?
Yeah, UTM_source to the link of the OUSD.com.
Great, and we can create those dynamically. Like we don't need to define it ahead of time, right?
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Well, Max, Aaron, maybe we can get going on that, defining that list. But let's go ahead and make that investment. I think it's worth at least experimenting with it.
Definitely, I'm excited to do it actually.
Other thing that is related that we've talked about in recent weeks, I feel like I'm a broken record. I keep telling myself this and then not making much progress on it, is we need to do more user research with the people who are already holding OUSD, figure out how they learned about it, what they like about it, so that we can target other prospective users with the same profile. So I'd like to start doing that again soon. Maybe that is part of the same effort to at least identify who those people are, because to Doman's point, there's a lot of OUSD out there in addresses, but if we're not able to contact those users, then it's difficult.
Yeah. And maybe just one thing when we're talking about marketing campaigns and narratives, I'm thinking, would it make sense, if you already have like a Web3 enabled wallet, that you probably can't do that with ads, but that somewhere it would show you, we detect that you have like, I don't know, 20K of some stable coins that you could swap for OUSD. And if, in the past 4 months, instead of having them in stable coins, you've had them in OUSD, you wouldn't have 20K, but you would have, 22K or something. So that's the cash you're not having because you haven't joined yet. I always feel that the feel of a loss is a lot stronger than feeling of gaining something. Just a thought.
No, it's a great idea. I'd love to get that integrated into something like Zapper, right? Imagine if we had a way where we could take a wallet address and then show a custom ad in Zapper that would say, like, if this wallet, if here's how much money you could have made and you lost because you were holding stables instead of OUSD. I have no idea if it'd go for something like that, but it's certainly worth a conversation. Coleman, if you want to, maybe work on that, that'd be pretty cool. And it could be Zapper or any of the ones that we've talked to and are integrated with and are open to deeper integrations like that.
How hard is it for the Curve meta pool to get the rebase rewards? I imagine that would be an interesting distribution channel if people could they know that they're getting the rebates rewards just from being in the pool?
So the curve pools are immutable. Those contracts are not. There's no way for those contracts to call the opt-in function to earn that yield. And so, there's no easy way to do it. It makes the game mechanics more interesting, because what actually happens is it boosts the yield for the people who are just holding OUSD. And so, at some point it may be more profitable to pull out of a curve pool and just buy and hold OUSD than it is to participate in curve. So right now that's certainly not the case. You make more money on curve than you will just holding OUSD. But the fact that we are having a higher yield on the OUSD is one of the strongest marketing points we have for origin dollar as the APY. And the higher that number is, the more people are going to want to use it, the more interesting it's going to be for exchanges to integrate it. That is the best marketing content we have. And so the fact that we can, boost that number by running campaigns on curve is actually a really positive thing for us.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you know if saddles contracts are immutable as well?
I'd have to take a look. I'm not sure. I don't know off the top of my head.
Cool, thanks.
But in general, most other aggregators up there are not going to have logic built in for calling our opt-in function, which is what's required for any smart contract to earn yield. Now, if you're multi-sig, you can easily call that yourself and earn a yield. But for any of the yield aggregators or AMMs or lending platforms, none of them are going to have that logic built in. So it'd be custom work no matter what.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments about marketing strategy for OUSD?
I think the next step here is probably for us to create a smaller working group. A lot of times we talk about what we need to do, and then we don't actually block off the time to actually do it, actually execute on it. And so maybe the next step here is for a few of us to actually just sit down and we'll work together and figure out whatever services we want to run ads, what is a copy we want them to say, actually setting it all up and actually doing that. So maybe Max, you and I and Aaron can do that. If anyone else wants to join that team, let us know. But I think that's the next step. We have enough ideas at this point. It's more just blocking off time in our calendars to actually execute on it.
Yeah, there's enough ads experience in that group to I don't need to join it. But yeah, I'd very, very interesting to see what the results will come out of it. So yeah, that sounds like a good initial strategy, is just to go ahead and we need to get our feet into it and see what happens and start being able to iterate and plan. So the sooner we can get started, the better.
Good deal.
Yeah, in this case, it's about knowing what to do and more about making the time to actually execute.
Same for user research. So don't let me get away with not doing that. I will put an action item on in the notes for Max to schedule that working group, if that works.
Sure.
The last thing that we had on the agenda was a quick update on what's happening with the NFT platform. I don't think Matt is still here, but I just wanted to say, quickly, since we had talked last week, we made an announcement and launched Origin Story. You can access that at story.xyz. And this is basically us opening up the platform that we've been building for the last how many months? Most of this year, I guess, and that was used to set multiple records, run multiple record-breaking NFT sales that I'm sure you've all read about if you didn't participate in them. Pretty much what this does, it allows creators to control their own destiny, and they can go off-platform sell NFTs on their own terms. They all deploy their own smart contracts to mint their NFTs from, and then they can sell those NFTs at any time under their own terms. So they can do one-of-one auctions, they can do limited edition fixed price sales, open editions, and one of the things that a lot of creators have been really excited about is the ability to create NFTs with large files. There are some pretty strict file size limitations on many of the other platforms. So the prospect of being able to create a bunch of NFTs with 4K video files or large animated GIFs or something along those lines, be able to deploy your own contract with your own branding, mint it, and sell it on your own site, your own storefront, is something that's really resonated with a lot of creators. We've got a growing waiting list. We don't mean to be gatekeepers here. We're trying to open this thing up and scale it as quickly as possible. But we want to take our time, making sure that we work out all the kinks as we ramp it up. So if there are any creators who are interested in selling NFTs on our platform, you can sign up again at story.xyz, and we will get you. We'll open the door as soon as we can. Anyone have any questions about that or anything to add about the launch of Story?
I'll just stress the fact that we're letting people in. I've seen people on Twitter and other places spreading FUD that it's just a waiting list and that we haven't actually launched anything. And I'll just say, like, we're actively inviting creators in, and we're going to continue to let people in. So do sign up if you are interested in playing with it. We are pulling people in pretty rapidly.
Yeah,
all right.
This is Eric. I just want to also chime in. Well said, Micah, explaining it. But if anyone wants a demo, they can just reach out to me directly. You could DM me on Discord. It's at echarles with 3 S's, or email me at eric@story.xyz.
Just one thing, actually. We had a couple of people ask about whether we're going to publish anything around the people we are onboarding, whether it's like numbers or who they are. Some people were concerned that because they're not a big creator, they may not get picked.
Yeah, so we're certainly not going to be doing the same level of marketing for all of these creators as we have for our drops in the past. But we do, discovery is really important, and that's something that we're going to, work on is how we actually can drive traffic for those creators and get the word out about what we're doing. One of the things we want to do here is have a more data-driven approach where instead of us playing God and deciding who gets to sell NFTs and get promoted to our community and who doesn't, we're going to look at the data on who's actually doing, driving the most traffic organically, who's getting the most sales, and then actually highlighting the ones that are actually showing positive momentum. So a little bit of a shift in philosophy for us, where we want to remove ourselves as gatekeepers and really make this as open and permissionless as possible.
Cool, thanks for that.
And I'll just say, for what it's worth, that the people who have been approved thus far in these early days, since we made the announcement last week, it's not based on how many followers they have. It's based on how engaged they've gotten along the way. Like, get in our Discord, say hi, say GM, and let us know that you really want to try the thing out, and we'll be happy to let you in. All right. Is there anyone who wanted to introduce themselves and let us know how you found us and what you're working on?
It's great to see a whole bunch of new faces here. Thanks for stopping by, everyone.
Totally. Well, the invitation is open. Same time, same place. Come back and introduce yourself if you want. Or just be a fly on the wall and get an update on what we've been up to. unless there are any other closing thoughts, then I think we just have the 2 action items of Max scheduling the follow-up with the working group, and then Coleman to explore some potential creative ad opportunities with Zapper or Zerion or any others that that I haven't thought of. And then there are a few old action items, one of which I keep punting on. So I will I'll circle up with Doman and get that taken care of. See you next time.
Great meeting.
Good meeting, guys.
Thanks all.
Thank you all.
Bye bye.
So long.